Okay, so it's been a long time since I've done one of these. I don't even know where to start. Those of you who have been around since the beginning know that I've worked on Rustwalker for a long time. And I think it's time that we talk a little bit about that. It's been kind of in a state of limbo. And I really don't want it to become like a piece of lost media before it even becomes a piece of playable media. But a quick overview of what's happened with it is I worked on it as a learning Unreal project, and it got to a certain point where I was like, okay, this seems like a game I want to make. It started off as one thing, turned into another thing, eventually became the robot bounty hunting game that I kind of presented to everybody. And by that point it was the second or third iteration of the project, and it was going pretty well, but it suffered a lot from lack of direction, and that's never good. But always had fun working on it and trying to see what I could do with it, and how I could make it more engaging and interactive and things like that. That's always been the thing for me, is how can it be more interactive, because that's what I like in games. The only thing is it lost itself in the sense of scope, because it always felt like it needed to be this big AAA game, and it's one dude making it, and that's not gonna work, obviously, at a certain point, unless you have a team. But I worked on that for a long time, and then I started doing Sushi Ben, and I was doing the YouTube on here, and then I started the other channel, and I was doing that. And Sushi Ben, it's out now. It's been out for a little while. I actually helped them put it onto Steam. So if you want to get it on Steam and you can play it in flat mode, I recommend that. I don't like VR, but it's it's out there. If you want to play it in VR, play it in flat mode, whatever you want to do. It is pretty cool. It's a cool game. Very visual novel-y, if that's your thing. Very anime, also, if that's your thing. I've never been a super big into anime or visual novels, but I got a Crunchyroll subscription while working on that game just to get into it, because whatever I'm into, I'm in it. But I did that, and so that's both YouTube channels had to take a back seat once we got into kind of the last stages of things, and it became really hard to come back to it. I don't know what it is about everything about YouTube and things like this. It's just everything kind of fell to the wayside, and by the time we were done, I needed a break. And I think I might have covered a little bit of this in the last video I did, maybe it was 2025, 24, something like that. But I went out for a little while, stopped working from home, and then I switched back and I started doing Rustwalker again, and I was doing it full time. And I thought I had a more solid scope, and I took a decent chunk of time and I poured it to Unreal 5, and that was probably the first biggest mistake that I made. Was a game that had been handcrafted and hand-tuned so much to look, in my opinion, for what it was, it looked really good in Unreal 4. A lot of work was done to make it not look super generic in Unreal 4. I'm sure there's places it looks like generic Unreal 4, but it didn't have a lot of issues. It ran really good, and that was the one thing that I was super proud of, was the performance of it was very high. Once I switched to Unreal 5, it became everything was broken and everything had to be fixed. And so that's a thing you don't do that late into a project, is you don't chase the new features and you don't chase the new engine. But again, it was always the learning project, so it was, you're learning with it, so you got to learn the new shit. So you gotta move into the new stuff. But that was a big mistake. I could probably rant for about an hour and a half to 3 days to a week to a month about my opinions on Unreal 5. There are some things that I personally would like to change in Unreal 5. I have gone back to Rustwalker in the recent past month or so. Been very slow. I rolled back to an old version of Rustwalker. It's more close to what you would have seen on here. Maybe a little little fresher, some stuff that's a little different. It's a custom build of the engine that I started working on when I was doing Sushi Bin. So I've got my own custom, instead of, that's not a post process or anything, it's like a custom shader to the lighting and everything, because I do like a little bit of stylization, a little control over the way lighting works and everything. So there's that, and I just like having, now that you know, Unreal 4 is kind of old news, having a custom build, it is going to be kind of necessary if I'm going to stick with 4. 427 I think is the best version of Unreal at this point, but to not get hung up on the technical side of things, that's where it's at right now. And I have found myself really struggling to work on it, because another reason why you've seen 0 from me, there's been no updates to Wasteland Kitchen, there's been no updates from me, is because there's been a lot of life things that has happened in the past year. Plus, like, you know, I stopped Sushi Bin, I started working a public job just to get out of the house. I met a girl, got engaged, like, that's been great. But there's also been some things that were not so great, like the past, I don't know how many months. We're going on, it was at least 8 months, and I've been saying 8 months for over a month, but I've been having some not great health issues, and I can't get those sorted out. That has left me out of work, but also really unable to use my brain or my body appropriately. And I finally just kind of decided at this point that whether they're sorted or not, I'm just gonna do something. And one of those somethings is I would like to see something be done with Rustwalker. I'd like to go back to working on things, and I'd like to go back to talking on here. And if you've made it this far, my question to you is, like, if you followed along and you saw Rustwalker and you saw this, like, if you were interested in it, because one of the only reasons I didn't scrap it, because I had actually canceled it in my mind, was because I've gotten multiple comments of people saying, "When's Rustwalker coming out? Where's this? Where's Rustwalker? What is this thing? Well, I'm waiting for Rustwalker." I have people coming into, like, my Discord and replying to, like, I haven't been active because I've just been, like, brain no worky. And so they were replying to completely, like, random people and like, "Yo, when's Rustwalker coming out?" Those people don't even know. But I don't know when Rustwalker is coming out. I would like to make something, even if it was a smaller version than what I had in mind, because I've tried so many different things with it, and I think a lot of those things were tangents that weren't useful. I tried doing something like a Destiny style orbit system where you could just, like, orbit over planets and go from planet to planet and then take missions in those. I thought that sounded cool. It looked cool until I implemented it, and I was like, this is it. This is going to be the thing. I did it. It gave me that feeling that Starfield gave me of the loading screen upon loading screen upon loading screen, because I'm not doing full space travel, because space travel works for some games, but for a game where you can only make so much content and it's about the content, it's very boring. Space travel can be very boring if you don't have something to fill the dead space. So that doesn't seem to be the direction to go. The way it's leaning right now is always from the beginning it was supposed to be a abandoned bounty hunting station that you found, where you were somehow connected to that. And I like the idea of it being crash landed now, because it kind of makes a little bit more sense for you to stumble upon it, and it kind of also could help with some scope things. And if I wanted to expand the scope later to travel to a different planet, level, whatever, you could still do that teleportation thing that you see in the videos and everything. That would still exist, but it wouldn't be required, and it would still make sense within the context and the rules of the world, because this base station is literally just smashed right down into the surface of a planet. Because there's so many levels that are in various levels of production, because I had so big of ambition on things, and I really, like, there's the amount of passion that I had for this world. There's things that I've never talked about. There is like everything had like a depth to it that I didn't even talk about. Like there's a lore to so much. Some things are just random shit. Like there are random things that just get added, but there is an overarching like rule to the world and like a world building that I spent just like, I would get so excited and spend days just thinking about and just like coming up with different ways that things connected and what this means and why is this here and why is that there. And that's what I loved about it. And that's why I can't fully let it go. And I want it to exist in some form or other. And that's why like I keep trying to think of different ways that I could reinterpret it, simplify it, and do something with it. And so if you have watched it, I'm curious to see like what people either think that it is or what they want it to be. Because at the end of the day, once I make it and I put it out there, it's really going to be experienced by other people. And as much as it's a creative expression of me and of my ideas, it's also interesting and useful to get other people's opinions and like desires on things, and like, you know, what gets you excited. Like, so the people who do ask, when's Rustwalker coming? Why are you excited? Ugh, that's slurred my words. That happens a little bit now. Why are you excited for Rustwalker? What is exciting to you? Why do you want to play it? And I think that would be extremely useful to me, because if I know why people see this little game that I spent all this time making, I know why I want to play it. I want to punch robots. I want to walk around in these weird environments, and I want to see what's around the corner. And I know what's around the corner. And maybe that's what it is for you. Maybe it's that. Maybe you just want to be a badass and hunt down bounties. Like there's a lot of things to it, but I think there's a lot of different aspects that a lot of different people would have that maybe it sparks an interest in them. And I just want to know what it is that sparks you. What is pulling you in, if you are even interested. And if you're not interested, I may not be doing a very good sell for it. That's fine. What would make you interested in a game about being a robotic bounty hunter who's like the last of his kind, trying to just like survive out there? Like it's interesting to me to know these things. And if you want to drop it in the comments, I mean, this is not even engagement farming. If you want to, I have a Discord. You can jump into the Discord. I'm going to try my best to be more active. Like I said, with the health stuff, I do go through periods of time where I can't do as much. Even if it's just like thinking and typing, I struggle to type sometimes. But I would love to just get a dialogue started with people, because that's what I'm wanting to hear, and that's what I'm wanting out of this now. It's kind of boring, and it's kind of not super interesting to do it in a vacuum, but for so long, and going back into it, I don't know what it is that really seems interesting. And there's so much out there. Like, if you look at the games that come out now, and this is going to be a little bit of a rant and a side note, but through this, I've played a lot of games because I can't do much else. Some of them have been indie games. Some of them have been backlogs of like AAA games. Some games have been really, really good. Mostly the indie games have been very, very good, and they could be extremely simple but very impactful. And then there's so many AAA games come out, and they are very, very, they're packed full of shit, and they're kind of feel like they're packed full of literal shit. Like they're not that fulfilling. They feel like they're just like content delivery that doesn't really pay off to anything. And so a lot of that doesn't feel like it's designed for the end user and for the players. And so as a player, I'm very interested in knowing what other people have to say about games and about specifically what would be interesting with this game. Can I make what interests you? I don't know. Can I even make what interests me? Probably not, because I want to make the biggest fucking game ever. Like, that's the thing. I know I can't make the game that I want to make, but I want to make a representation of what's in my head. And I have a whole backlog of different games that I want to make. And so I don't want to be just the guy who made that one game, because honestly, like, there's a lot that I want to do, and I could sit and ramble for hours and hours and hours. I do want to hear people's feedback, because as much fun as it is to just kind of unload my thoughts, I do want to read people's ideas, their thoughts, their opinions, because when I'm making things, sometimes I'll play a game and I'll be like, oh, loot mechanics are fun, so I'll go and I built out an entire Diablo style or Borderlands style loot mechanic, and there was procedural loot to a degree, procedural in the form of stats mostly, and you do that, and I'm good enough at programming, I can do that. I'm bad enough at scoping that I didn't really think about the fact that I would have to create enough content that would be able to fill that out, and not just the items, because procedural guns and swords and weapons and stuff, you could sit down and you can make like 30 or 40 different blades and handles and come up with different sword names and affixes and stuff like that, but then you need, you know, locations to grind these swords out and guns out, and you need different enemies, and you need these enemies to have different levels, and you have to have the repercussions of every decision like that create a debt that doesn't necessarily push the value forward. And so when you have like 10 different items, and they can have like a set of different affixes and stuff, and they can have slightly different variations, like I do have like item customization, so they can do different colors and different skins and stuff. Like, what came out of that is I realized, I was like, okay, item customization is cool. Throwing a different skin on your outfit gives you a different vibe. So there was a value out of that system, but randomized loot did not really give a value. Like, I think like having a skill system, that was cool. I still think a skill system is probably something I would want to have in some form, but always from the beginning. And I broke one of my like core pillars just by doing that. Was I like the idea of you get equipment and gear that persists through the game, that matters. Like, you know, you're not this loot collecting bounty hunter. You're somebody who has a limited arsenal, who might be able to improve that arsenal and get better and have all this stuff. And it's about becoming this honed, powerful bounty hunter, and not about being, you know, a loot goblin. And those games are really fun. Like, I have put a lot of hours into Borderlands, and I love Borderlands, but one of the things that I don't like about Borderlands is the fact that I can become very attached to a specific item or a gun in the way that it plays, and then suddenly a blue item will drop, and suddenly my legendary is no longer technically viable, but I still like that item, to the point like I would want to go grind that item back out until it drops again. Like, it's so there's all these little repercussions to every design decision, and that has to play into everything, and it can become decision fatigue. And I can just, like, as you can see, I'm already rambling on and on and on, and that's the thing. So just to recap, Rustwalker is not dead. It is on life support. I am not dead. I am not on life support. I think I'm getting better, but I would like to start doing more with Rustwalker. I'm gonna still do little side projects. If you see random shit pop up, that's just me. That's me. That's how I make things. It keeps it from, one of the ways I keep from making things that shouldn't be in the main game and be scope creep is I make it in something else just to get it out of my system. And if it's cool, it might make it back into Rustwalker, it might make it into the Wasteland Kitchen, it might make it into something else. But for the most part, I'm gonna always be like, let me test this idea somewhere else in a safe environment so I don't break everything. But leave a comment if you want to comment. And if you've never heard of Rustwalker, that's cool too. There's some videos on the channel of a much healthier, more excited version of myself talking about it. But, you know, it's a game about a robot bounty hunter hunting down robots in a universe full of robots. I thought it was pretty cool. I still think it's pretty cool. I want to do more with it. And you know what? If you don't know what it is, you can still join the Discord and tell me what you think. You can leave a comment. That's kind of what I want right now is I want to get a conversation going. I don't want anything out of anybody other than thoughts, ideas, just opinions on like, if you play video games, what do you like in the video games? What is enjoyable? What is unenjoyable? What would make you want to play a game like this? Like, you know, and if it's not your cup of tea, you're like into real-time strategy games, and you know, there may be no way to make you like this game. That's cool. Not every game's for everybody. There's a lot of games out there, and I don't play all those games. I play a large variety of types of games in different genres, but I don't play all the games. I worked on a visual novel, and I don't play visual novels. Luckily, I wasn't the one doing the story writing. I mean, I could write a story, but the visual novel part and being like, is this a good visual novel? I was the one who was able to write cheats to skip the dialogue. So I was testing the gameplay. I was the gameplay guy. And a lot of other things. But again, I get really distracted. If you stayed this long, I really respect the patience. Also, you might have fallen asleep. Anyways, thank you so much for sticking around. Leave the comment, join the Discord, join the conversation. Whatever you want to do, go about your day. Have a good day. Have a good life. I love you. Goodbye. Peace.